They don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get in the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hi guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD. My wonderful co-host is absent, so we brought one of our other knuckleheads in to try to fill her shoes. But Josh, how you doing today, man?
Good. Those are pretty sparkly shoes to fill, but I'll do my best.
They are very, very sparkly shoes. All right, so today we're going to talk about some of the things that we're seeing in the market, kind of some of the ways to prepare and overcome the shift, and some of the things Josh and I are doing to make sure that the change in the market doesn't change our income and our lead gen and all of that kind of stuff. And we'll have a couple of pointers to bring in that'll help you, make it through the storm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I assume because the market shifted and things changed, JD, you're just closing up shop, right? That's it for you?
Well, that's right. We're going to pack it in and leave. No, absolutely not. What we're doing and what we always do during market shift, good or bad, is try to pivot to where we're going to be most profitable. We're trying to change either our actions. We're trying to change the things that our daily activities, what we're doing, the amount of our daily activities, and we're trying to stay educated. We are trying to make sure that we have a really good pulse on the individualized markets that we're working in, instead of relying on the NAR statistics, the National Association of Realtors statistics. I'm going in almost every day and looking at what's happening on the MLS, what's happening with the cash sales, what's happening with the mortgage interest rates. And I am trying to stay personally connected with all of that information to help us be able to make the tiny adjustments on a daily, weekly, monthly basis as we move through this transition and into the new market.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, you definitely need to get educating to stay on top of your markets. Are you looking for anything elsewhere in regards to your business structure during this time? Or is it more so just from a market education standpoint?
Well, it's not just a market education point. There's a lot of people in this industry who have been through different ups and downs of the market. So, I think Napoleon Hill's mastermind concept is great in these situations where you're pulling in a lot of different information and a lot of different viewpoints from the other people in your network. That's what Melissa and I are doing. We're staying very connected with our mastermind groups. We are listening to the people who have more experience and who have been through some of these shifts before, right? And not just people that have been through these shifts before, but people who are actually in the market, who are doing these deals now, who are seeing and understanding what's happening. It's really easy in the up market for everybody to make money. You just buy a house, and if you hold on to it long enough, it might go up $50,000 over the course of 6 months, and you can sell it again. Well, that's not really the case. As a matter of fact, in our market, we're seeing roughly a 7% decline in ARV per quarter. So every 3 months, some months up, some months are down, but it's trending down at almost a 7% down per quarter since the last 2 quarters, 2 or 3 quarters.
Yeah. I think I think that's a great point. I think what happens a lot of times when people feel hardship in their business is they pull inwards, right? Or those that were on the cusp of getting started will then just push it off, right? And so I think there's a lot of people that when COVID first happened were super drawn to real estate because they realized that in any economy, you know, your job could go away, or I don't have as much security as I want. And if you were talking to the young new real estate investor out there that probably just read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then he probably picked up a few Bigger Pockets books, right? And he's making his way through the course. What would you say that those some of the more pivotal points to do to get started?
Well, I think that's a good point, Josh. And when we're talking about the new investors who are about to jump in, a lot of them, especially with this, you know, when it's looking like an up market, everybody wants to jump in. Real estate's the coolest thing. When it's starting to be a down market, you know, you start to see negative things in the news media. You start to see negative things in all the media. You see them on Facebook, you see it on TikTok, you know, you see it in all social media, you see it on the big news channels, television wise. And so that starts to make people want to pull back and retreat, like you said. So the thing that I think is most important, the one thing that we have to put out there is that there are thousands and thousands of people across the country who are making money in this market. They were making money in the other market, and they'll make money in a completely different market. There is no bad time to be investing in real estate. But with that being said, you need to be educated on the different strategies. You need to be educated on the market itself and the different strategies. What's working in your area, what's working for other people is stuff that you can try to implement. But in a down market or a market that's starting to level out or trend, it's really, really important that you are paying attention to your ARVs. You're making price adjustments. If you're still running ARVs with comps from 6 months ago, you're going to be in a big problem. As a matter of fact, one of our agents a couple of days ago had us review a property that she had listed, and she listed it based off of comps from 6 months back. And when I went and re-pulled the comps and reevaluated it based off of condition and furnishings and all of that kind of stuff, we're looking at $100,000 price difference between what I think it will sell at in this market today and what she thought it would sell at when she listed. Now, they were listing a little bit high to begin with, but a little bit high to begin with when we've seen such a huge shift is not where you want to be, especially as an investor, whether you're flipping houses or you're wholesaling. You're going to have to be really cognizant of what those ARVs are, what those list price, what you're advertising the property for, or what you're buying the property for, or you'll find yourself in a big, painful situation. Now, it's not going to be as bad as the stock market where your equity can drop to zero, because worst case scenario, you can always sell the land, you know, for land value. That's essentially what we're looking at. Worst case scenario. As long as you're mitigating your risk through insurance and running your numbers right, though, that risk really becomes minimized. And it's the same in the shifting market. I think that it's important to not make any huge mistakes right now, because the big mistakes, especially for somebody starting out, can end their real estate career and in their real estate investing career before it even gets started. And the ways to prevent yourself from making any of those huge mistakes are be educated in your market, know your numbers, and make sure that you are staying connected with other investors who are actively doing what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Now, when I hear you say stay connected, where are some of those areas that in your local market or in markets anywhere that you're able to stay connected and meet these individuals?
Sure. Well, you know, I always preach the free stuff first, staying active on Bigger Pockets, realizing that Bigger Pockets is a real estate investing community of 200,000 plus people, and not every single one of those 200,000 plus members is an active real estate investor who's making money. You got to realize that. So take everything with a grain of salt. And that's just like the free Facebook groups and other communities. Take all of that information with a grain of salt. I'd say, your local RIAs are great. And then finding mentorship, finding somebody that is doing what you want to do, and going under their wing, whether that's paid membership or mentorship, or whether you're actively working for them, with them, to help them in their business. That's where you're going to leverage their experience and wisdom, and be able to apply that to your business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key points you had there was there's education that's free, like brick and mortar free education, right? But at the end of the day, you'll never learn unless you're actively doing it, right? And no matter what you're partaking in, right, whether it's golf, backgammon, right, even like poker players, right, pickleball, even poker players have coaches, right? So there's a time once education meets application. And I think in that space right there, it's really important to have somebody, because you can run at something 100 miles an hour and fail on your own and learn and go that way. I mean, it's going to be a long, arduous path. And if you're persistent enough, you'll get there. But I think it's extremely important, especially you said some keynotes there earlier, right? Is early on, one big mistake can set you back years. Mm-hmm. Right? Or forever, right? To a certain standpoint. Whereas, you're going to make little mistakes, but if you can cut out those big ones, because you have, someone overshadowing you on your side being like, hey, that's probably really dumb. And you're like, well, but I read this book, and you're like, no, I hear you, but that's really dumb. And this is why. This is why you should see that. So I think it's really crucial to find that in any market, especially when you're getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you have some sort of mentor, and not every situation's the same, ultimately the responsibility and the outcome of the decision that you make falls on you and your business and what you're doing. But having somebody there, even if they just take the contrary position, even if they're playing devil's advocate, just to help you think about the other things that you don't, because we don't know what we don't know, and you can only learn so much from a book. But when you have actual experience that's been applied, looking in and asking you the questions that make you rethink or think about something from a different light to help you find the answer, that's really key. And if you can find that type of mentorship, that's really valuable, especially in this time. Now, does that mean that the day after you read Rich Dad Poor Dad for the first time, you should go out and buy some $5,000 course? No, probably not. There's a lot more in between Rich Dad Poor Dad to paid mentorship, but there's definitely, or paid coaching, there is definitely a time and a place for that in every real estate investing career.
Yeah, absolutely. I can speak a little bit from my personal experience. Once I felt like I was at a point early on in my career where I was ready to start putting, boots on pavement. That's exactly what I did, right? In our market was I went out and I said, who's doing exactly what I want to do, and how can I steal their knowledge and burrow my way into their team? Right. And so I just went on exactly like everybody else did, bigger pockets, right? Found you guys and was able to come in, steal all the knowledge that I could. And then eventually, right, it became, part of a full team. But I think that for those that are out there trying to struggle on their own, right, and figure it out on their own, they're missing out on such an accelerated start and wealth of knowledge from people that have already been there and done that. And one thing I wanted to talk about too, JD, was a lot of times in hard times, that takes me to where we talk about a scarcity versus abundance mindset. right? So a lot of people, even seasoned investors that are struggling right now, aren't wanting to reach out, aren't wanting to say, hey, we're having a tough time, aren't wanting to say, hey, we're getting started. So even those interim investors that are kind of in the middle ground, or even the big wigs, right, all the way down to the new guy, they're going like, oh, well, I just need to take these problems, bring them in and bury them. And then, or even worse, right? I think I have the solution, this secret solution that I'm just going to keep to myself, right? I have the Apple Watch in my pocket and I'm going to show it, right? Will you talk a little bit about how that mindset is actually detrimental to you, and how partnerships and having an abundance mindset can actually help your business grow?
Sure, absolutely. But before I answer that question, I do want to hit on one thing that you said. You said that you came and stole all of this knowledge, and I think that that's a little bit disingenuous, right? Because you didn't come in and steal knowledge. What you did was you exchanged value for experience and knowledge, right? You didn't have the knowledge and the experience, but you did have the, I'm going to show up. You did have, I'm going to make these calls for you. You had, I'm going to do these drive-by appointments. Hey, is there something you need? Hey, do you need this to happen at the short terms? You were providing solutions to problems that we had within our business. And that's what allowed me to help walk you through the things that we talk about on the daily basis. You were there at the office, so when a problem in our business came up, you were there to hear how Melissa and I went through that problem. And I think that that's different than a lot of the people who are looking for mentorship want to behave. What they mean is, I want you to give me all of this information that you've learned over the course of a dozen years, 10 years, and for some other investors, 20 years, but I don't want to do anything or provide anything. We've seen it, countless times where people come in and they say, hey, I want some help. I want some mentorship. Can I come in? They show up 3 times. Don't do anything on their own, and then ghost you for 2 or 3 months, or maybe they'll even come in for a couple of weeks doing what they're supposed to, and then all of a sudden they're gone. That's not the way that you behave. So when you say stole, I think it was really an exchange of value there with that one. Now, going back to your question, which I completely forgot.
No, my question is a lot of us who, when I say us, but everybody in the industry has that moment where they start to either hit a brick road or they are having issues
versus the abundance mindset. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so what happens is the natural indication is to preserve your resources, bring it in, take care of your tight-knit family, and weather the storm, survive this, instead of thinking of it with the abundance mindset where I want to go out and capture it while everybody else is shrinking back. I want to go out there and capture as much of the market share, as much of the marketing, as much of the notoriety, as much of everything that I can during this time where other people are pulling back. And that's really the only part of it, right? Because then we have the game that we're playing inside of our own mind, where we think, okay, well, I don't want to share my secrets. I don't want to give the competition a leg up. But what I can say to everybody is that there is really very, very few new and novel ideas in this business. So if you think that you're pulling the best list ever and nobody's ever seen this list before, that's probably not true. But when you collaborate together, you are getting diversity of thought and diversity of action. So you personally don't have to go out and test, is this postcard better than this postcard? If you're working with somebody else, if you're working with a coach or a mentor, or if you're working in a partnership, you're bringing something to the table, your partner's bringing something to the table, and then you are able to use their knowledge, pick and choose what you want to spend money on through the other person's experience. I think that's one of the huge benefits of that collaboration mindset, especially when things are not working like they were a few months ago.
Absolutely. Now, we've one thing COVID, I think, did provide was it kind of got rid of the mindset of you're geographically stuck in your area that you're in. And I think it's opened doors nationwide, right? So we can now, quite honestly, we can talk to you in New York, and we're not going to know the intricate specifics of your market, but as a whole, and as the the nuts and bolts kind of go of it, you're definitely gonna be able to talk to other people in your market. Are you guys talking to currently people from all across?
Yeah, I mean, because of our masterminds, we're networking on a daily basis, a weekly basis, but most of the time a daily basis with other investors, high-level investors from all across the country, from California to New York, from us in Florida to Wisconsin. There's investors that we network with all over, and we can see different things happening in different markets. And that's a huge benefit. So I don't know exactly what's going on in this street versus this street here. I can go and run ARVs. Everybody can do that, but you don't know the local politics. You don't know the rules and regulations. Are short-term rentals allowed here? Are they not? You don't know that kind of stuff. But what you can do is think about it with an outside perspective. And generally speaking, real estate is real estate, right? You buy low, sell high, location, cash flow appreciation, yada, yada, yada. Everything's the same basic terms. But some of the benefits of networking with somebody outside of your local area is everybody, I think we've had probably a dozen investors in our local market either call me up for our text messages that we're sending out or our postcards, because a lot of the properties they buy either had them there, they're associated with one of the properties that's on our list, so they're getting our text messages. So everybody knows what we're doing, and just like I keep track and know what everybody in my local market's doing. But somebody who's over in Wisconsin, I don't have any contact with them. So when they see something that's working, when they have a strategy that's working for them, then you can be new, or maybe not new because there's nothing new, but a refreshed strategy in your market can be game changing.
Absolutely. Now, if I were a newer investor, right, and I was looking to take those next steps, and I was looking to throw a shameless plug, and I heard the word on the street is that Mr. Monroe is taking on a few different students over the next year. Would you talk a little bit about kind of what that looks like and what the ideal student is that you're looking for?
Yeah, so that's right. We are starting to take on coaching students, and really the way that the process goes is we set up a call first off to make sure that you're ready for some sort of coaching. If you don't have the basic understanding, I can point you in the right direction. I can point you to the books. If you're listening to this podcast, then I've probably given you all that information that you would need to get to the level where it might make sense for coaching. So we would schedule a call, have a conversation about what your business currently looks like, and that way I can analyze, is this person a good fit for me, and really, am I a good fit for them? Once we decide that that's the case, we have a couple of different ways to go about it. There's kind of your beginning investor who's done a couple of wholesale deals, maybe one live-in flip or some sort of house hack. And they're wanting to scale or grow that part of their business to something that's more sustainable. We can help them out. If it's somebody who understands the lingo but needs somebody to hold their hand a little bit more, so maybe they've done a couple of deals off and on, but they're not ready to go at it full time, quit their job, jump both feet into it. Those are the people probably that we're going to be able to help the best, the ones that are trying to learn how to do this while having a full-time job and trying to make their side hustle into a side business, we can definitely help out with that. And it's going to be somebody that will be committed. If we're going to, when we will be committed to the person who is looking for this mentorship, but I need to know that they're committed to being mentored, right? Like I said, there's so many people, and when you leave the barrier entry so low, there's so many people that will come on, waste the time, effort, energy, and then never do anything or never hear from them again. We don't want those people. If you're not ready to commit to becoming a successful real estate investor, then it's probably not something that's even worth the phone call.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. I'll say from my personal experience going through what you guys have to offer over here and now what we all have to give back. If you're sitting there and you're thinking about making the jump and you know that your next step is you need to kind of get serious about it or go back to your 9-to-5, right? And kind of just realize that you're always going to keep it kind of just a side hustle, that this next step is tremendously important. And it's necessary to jumpstart you to be where you want to be. And I can't recommend it enough. So.
Absolutely. And if you do want to look into that, if any of that stuff that Josh and I have talked to you about for the last few minutes here is interesting to you, you can click the link in the show notes or at the bottom of the YouTube video, and that'll take you to a page that'll let you sign up for a call with either me and Josh or me alone, depending on which day of the week it is, and we can start the conversation there and move forward.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Josh, you got anything else to add?
No, but I do have, I'll just say, if you're planning to jump in with both feet, just make sure you're not jumping into drywall because it will not support you.
Josh fell through the roof on one of our properties today, or through the ceiling from the attic. So he was chasing out squatters and fell through the roof. But that's a podcast for a different day. Thank you very much for joining us on the Real Estate Jam. If you're interested in any of the stuff we have to offer, click the link in the description, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.